My husband humiliated me by saying I'm no longer worthy of being his wife, even after all these years together. Before continuing the story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you won't miss more stories, and leave your like on the video. I used to think I knew what perfect looked like. 4 years with him felt like proof that I'd found it. Someone who understood me, who laughed at my terrible jokes, who remembered the small things I mentioned in passing. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, and by the end of that night, we'd talked for hours about everything and nothing. He was attentive in ways I'd never experienced before, texting good morning every day, planning thoughtful dates, introducing me to his family within months. Our relationship had a rhythm to it. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, Sunday dinners with his parents, weeknight cooking experiments that sometimes succeeded and often didn't. He supported my decision to go back to school for my master's, even when it meant less time together. When I got overwhelmed with coursework, he'd show up with takeout and help me organize my notes. When his father had health issues, I took time off work to help his family. We built something together, or at least I thought we did. 3 years in, during a weekend trip to the cabin where we'd spent our first vacation together, he proposed. It wasn't elaborate, just him and me on the dock at sunset, the water reflecting the orange sky. He'd planned it perfectly, down to having my best friend hiding nearby to capture the moment on camera. I said yes without hesitation. The ring was simple and beautiful, exactly what I would have chosen myself. We called our families from the dock, and I remember feeling like everything in my life had led to this moment. The engagement period started like a dream. We set a date 14 months out, booked the venue we both loved, started making guest lists over wine and laughter. His mother wanted to be involved in everything, which I expected and welcomed. We went cake tasting, looked at flowers, debated color schemes. I created elaborate spreadsheets to track every detail. He seemed less interested in the logistics, but assured me he cared. He just trusted my taste. I told myself it was normal, traditional even, for the bride to handle most of the planning. But something shifted around the 6-month mark after the engagement. It was subtle at first, comments I initially brushed off as stress or wedding pressure. He mentioned that I should maybe try a new gym routine, said it casually while we were watching TV. A few days later, he suggested I might want to reconsider my hairstyle for the wedding, said the photos would last forever. I laughed it off, but the comment stuck with me longer than it should have. The critiques became more frequent. My career ambitions were cute, but maybe not practical for a family. My tendency to speak my mind at his work functions was a bit much. My close relationship with my sister was codependent. Each comment came wrapped in concern, delivered with a smile, positioned as helpful feedback. I started second-guessing myself, wondering if he had a point. Maybe I was too intense. Maybe I did need to tone it down. Maybe being a good partner meant adjusting, compromising, becoming easier to love. I changed my hair. I adjusted my wardrobe to styles he preferred. I started monitoring what I said at social gatherings, counting drinks, analyzing every interaction afterward. When he suggested I might want to reconsider my close friendship with my college roommate because she was too negative, I slowly stopped calling her as often. She noticed. She asked if everything was okay. I assured her it was just wedding stress, that I'd been busy. The lie felt necessary to keep peace, to prove I was adapting, to show I could be the wife he wanted. His mother's involvement in the wedding planning intensified. She had opinions about everything. The venue wasn't prestigious enough, the guest list needed adjustment. My dress choice was questioned. He always sided with her, gently suggesting I try to understand her perspective and be more flexible. When I pushed back, wanting some decisions to be ours alone, he called me difficult. Said planning a wedding was bringing out a side of me he didn't recognize. Said I was being selfish when his mother just wanted to help. 3 months before the wedding, during what should have been a simple discussion about the final guest count, something broke. We were in his apartment, me with my laptop open to the spreadsheet, him scrolling through his phone. I mentioned that we needed to finalize the seating chart. He looked up and said we needed to talk about something more important. The tone in his voice made my stomach drop. My mother brought something up the other day, he said, not looking at me. About the wedding. I waited, laptop still open, cursor blinking on the seating chart. The air in the room felt different suddenly. She's concerned about appearances. The country club crowd. You know how they are. He was choosing his words carefully, which wasn't like him. Or maybe it was, and I'd just stopped noticing. She's wondering if you'll be comfortable in those circles, if you'll fit in. The words hung there. I closed the laptop slowly. What does that mean? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. It's just, you're wonderful, you know that. But sometimes you're, I don't know, a bit rough around the edges. My mother's friends, they notice things. The way you dress, how you talk about your work, your family background. He was still scrolling through his phone. Couldn't even look at me while saying this. I'm not saying I agree, but she has a point about the optics. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Optics. Don't make this a big thing. I'm just being honest. Isn't that what you always say you want? Honesty? He finally looked up, and his expression was almost annoyed, like I was being difficult by not immediately understanding. Look, I love you. But love isn't always enough for a marriage to work. There are practical considerations, social ones. Over the next few weeks, the criticism became a steady drip. My laugh was too loud at his colleague's dinner party. My choice to wear flats instead of heels showed a lack of effort. The promotion I'd been excited about at work was nice, but middle management isn't exactly impressive. When I got emotional about his comments, he said I was being oversensitive, that he was trying to help me improve. I started walking on eggshells, analyzing every choice before making it. What would he think of this outfit? Was this story appropriate to share? Should I order wine, or would that be too much? My best friend noticed I'd become quieter, more withdrawn. When she asked about it, I made excuses about wedding stress, about work pressure. The truth felt too complicated to explain, too shameful to admit out loud. His mother escalated her involvement. She wanted to reprint the invitations because my parents' names were listed first, which apparently sent the wrong message about who was actually hosting. She questioned whether my family could afford their portion of the expenses, suggested maybe his parents should cover everything to avoid embarrassment. He thought these were reasonable concerns. When I objected, he sighed like I was being exhausting. "You're not making this easy," he said one night, after I'd pushed back on his mother wanting to choose my bridesmaids' dresses. Marriage is about compromise, about putting the family first. My mother is just trying to ensure everything is done properly. What about my family? I asked. Don't they matter? Of course they do, but let's be realistic about what they can contribute versus what mine can. The way he said it, like it was obvious, like I should have already understood this hierarchy. This is about setting us up for success. My family has connections, resources. We need to think strategically. I changed more things about myself, took speech lessons to sound more polished, bought expensive clothes I couldn't really afford, started reading the same pretentious books his mother's book club discussed, learned which fork to use when, how to make small talk about nothing, how to smile and nod when someone said casually classist or dismissive. I became a performance of what I thought they wanted. My sister confronted me about missing family dinners. "You're different," she said. "You're not yourself anymore." "I'm just busy with wedding planning," I told her, but the lie tasted bitter. "No, it's more than that. You apologize for everything now. You second-guess yourself constantly. This isn't wedding stress. This is something else." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't find the words. Because she wasn't wrong. I barely recognized myself anymore. 2 months before the wedding, his mother hosted an engagement party at her country club. I'd been dreading it for weeks, had bought a new dress specifically for it, practiced conversations in the mirror. The night was going reasonably well until I was cornered by a group of his mother's friends. They asked about my family, my background, where I went to school. Their smiles were polite, but their eyes were evaluating, cataloging, judging. Later, in the car, he was quiet. Finally, he spoke. "You told them your father works in construction." "He does. He owns his own business, actually. You could have just said he's a business owner. You didn't need to specify construction. It sounds working class." I stared at him in the darkness of the car. That's what he is. That's what I am. Working class. You don't have to advertise it. His voice was sharp now, frustrated. This is what I'm talking about. You don't think about how things sound, how they reflect on me, on us. My colleagues were there tonight. Their wives know how to present themselves appropriately. Something inside me cracked a little more. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening, 11 weeks before our wedding date. We were supposed to finalize the catering menu, a task I'd been putting off because even thinking about the wedding made my stomach hurt. He'd insisted we meet at his apartment, said he wanted to talk somewhere comfortable. I arrived with my planning binder, the one that had become both my security blanket and my burden. He was sitting on his couch, not looking at wedding materials, just staring at his phone with an expression I couldn't quite read. So I was thinking for the main course. I started, but he held up his hand. "We need to talk about something first. Sit down." The tone made me freeze. It was the same tone his mother used when she was about to criticize something. I sat on the edge of the armchair, still holding my binder. My mother came to me yesterday. She's having serious doubts about this wedding. He said it flatly, like he was discussing a business transaction, about whether you're really the right fit for our family. What? The word came out smaller than I intended. She made some valid points. You come from a completely different background, different values. She's worried about how you'll represent the family at social events, business functions. I felt dizzy. I've been adapting. I've changed everything about myself trying to fit in. Have you, though? He looked at me then, and his eyes were cold. Because from where I'm sitting, you're still fundamentally who you've always been, and I'm starting to wonder if that's enough. The words landed like physical blows. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, he continued, and there was something almost rehearsed about his delivery. About what marriage really means. About partnership and compatibility. And I think we've been fooling ourselves. About whether this can really work long term. Are you breaking up with me? My voice shook. 11 weeks before our wedding? I'm saying I have doubts. Serious doubts. He set his phone down. Look, I care about you, but caring isn't the same as being right for each other. My mother pointed out that I could probably do better. Someone who's already part of our world, who understands it naturally. Someone who wouldn't need so much adjustment. The cruelty of it hit me in waves. Do better. That's what your mother said? And you agreed with her? I'm being honest with you. Isn't that better than pretending? He sounded almost reasonable, like he was doing me a favor. Maybe we rushed into this. Maybe the engagement was a mistake. 4 years, I whispered. 4 years of my life. I changed everything about myself trying to be what you wanted. And now you're saying I'm not good enough? That you're settling? Don't be dramatic. I'm saying we're not compatible in ways I didn't fully appreciate before. My mother helped me see that. There are women in my social circle who would be more suitable, who wouldn't require this constant effort. Something snapped inside me. Maybe it was the way he kept mentioning his mother. Maybe it was the casual cruelty in his voice. Maybe it was the sudden, crystal-clear realization of what the rest of my life would look like if I stayed on this path. I laughed. I actually laughed, and the sound was sharp and surprising even to me. He looked taken aback. What's funny? You are. This whole thing is. The laughter kept coming, slightly unhinged. You're telling me I'm not good enough while sitting in your mother's shadow. You're a grown man letting your mommy decide whether your fiancé is suitable, and you think you're doing better than me? Don't be childish. Childish? I stood up, still clutching my planning binder. You've spent months systematically destroying my confidence, making me question everything about myself. And now you have the audacity to tell me I'm not good enough? That you're settling? I knew you'd react like this. This is exactly the kind of emotional instability I'm talking about. The words that should have hurt just made me laugh harder. Because I suddenly saw it all so clearly. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of my sense of self. How close I'd come to marrying this man. We're done, I said, and my voice was surprisingly steady. Not because you're having doubts. Because I deserve so much better than someone who thinks loving me is settling. Someone who lets his mother dictate his life. Someone who spent months making me feel worthless. You're going to regret this. His voice had an edge now. You're not going to find someone better. Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position? Then call one of them. I'm sure your mother has a list. I headed toward the door. The deposits on the wedding. Keep them. Consider it payment for the lesson. I turned back one last time. You're right about one thing. We're not compatible. Because I'd never treat someone I love the way you've treated me. I walked out, leaving the binder on his coffee table. 4 years of my life, reduced to a planning binder I no longer needed. The calls started that same night. Angry texts demanding I return to talk like adults. Voicemails that alternated between rage and theatrical apologies. I blocked his number around midnight, then lay awake staring at the ceiling, my phone silent for the first time in years. The next morning, the reality of what I'd done hit me. I had to cancel a wedding, tell my parents, my friends, my coworkers, return gifts that had already started arriving. The humiliation felt suffocating until my sister reminded me that staying would have been worse. You dodged a bullet, she said when I called her crying. A really expensive, emotionally abusive bullet. My best friend, the one I'd been slowly pushing away, showed up at my apartment that afternoon with wine and takeout. She didn't say I told you so, even though she'd tried to voice concerns months ago. She just held me while I cried and helped me start making the necessary phone calls. Canceling the venue was easier than expected. They'd seen it before, were almost kind about it. The caterer kept half the deposit but waived the rest. My mother cried, not because the wedding was off, but because I'd been suffering and hadn't told her. My father asked if he needed to have a conversation with him. I said no, that walking away was enough. His mother called my phone repeatedly. I let it go to voicemail, listened once to her saying I was making a huge mistake, that I'd never do better, that I was throwing away my future out of pride. I deleted the message and blocked her too. The hardest part was the apartment I'd been living in, the one we'd chosen together, the one that was supposed to be temporary until we got married and moved into the house his parents were helping us buy. My lease was month to month, easy to break, but finding a new place felt overwhelming when I could barely get out of bed. My sister helped me look at apartments. We found a small one-bedroom in an older building. Nothing fancy, but it was mine alone. The lease was entirely in my name. The deposit came from my savings, not family money or his contributions. Signing those papers felt like taking my first real breath in months. Moving day was strange. I didn't have much that was actually mine. I'd left behind so much when we'd merged our lives. The coffee maker he'd bought because mine wasn't good enough. The artwork his mother had chosen for the walls. The expensive dishes from his family's preferred store. I took my books, my clothes, my grandmother's quilt, and the few things that had survived the relationship still feeling like mine. His messages found new avenues. Email, social media. He created new phone numbers. The anger phase lasted about a week. Messages calling me ungrateful, stupid, sabotaging my own future. Then came the apology phase. Long rambling messages about how he'd made mistakes, how he wanted to work on things, how we could get through this if I'd just give him another chance. I didn't respond to any of it. My therapist, who I'd stopped seeing 6 months into the engagement, welcomed me back with gentle understanding. She helped me see the patterns I'd missed, the ways I'd been manipulated so gradually I hadn't noticed the water boiling. "You weren't crazy," she said during one session. "You were being gaslit." Hearing it out loud, having someone validate what I'd experienced, made something tight in my chest finally loosen. The third phase of his messages was the threats. Not physical ones, but emotional manipulation dressed up as concern. "You'll regret this when you're alone. No one else will put up with you like I did. You're going to realize too late that I was the best you could do." I blocked every new account, every new number. My friends ran interference when he showed up at places he knew I'd be. After the third time, my best friend's boyfriend, who looked more intimidating than he actually was, had a quiet word with him in a parking lot. The surprise appearances stopped. Slowly, quietly, without me quite noticing when it started, I began feeling lighter. I could eat what I wanted without calculating whether he'd comment on my choices. I could wear comfortable clothes without worrying if they were polished enough. I could laugh loudly, speak freely, exist without constant self-monitoring. My sister said I looked different, softer somehow, more like myself. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been carrying myself until I stopped. 3 months after the breakup, I accepted an invitation to a friend's birthday party. I almost didn't go, still getting used to being social again, but my best friend insisted. It was small, casual, held in someone's backyard with string lights and a playlist that was more nostalgic than current. That's where I met him. Not the ex. Someone new, someone different. His name was Owen. He was a friend of the birthday host's brother, someone I'd never met before. We ended up in the same conversation circle when someone started debating the best pizza places in the city. He was funny without trying too hard, had opinions but didn't steamroll over anyone else's. When I mentioned a place I liked, he didn't correct me or suggest somewhere better. He just said he'd have to try it. We talked for maybe an hour, nothing earth-shattering. Books we'd read recently, a documentary series we'd both watched, the weirdly specific coffee preferences we'd each developed. Normal conversation, the kind I'd almost forgotten could feel easy and comfortable. When the party started winding down, he asked if I wanted to exchange numbers, not in a pushy way, just casual and open. "No pressure," he said, "but I'd like to keep talking to you if you're interested." I was rusty at this. Dating felt like something from another lifetime, but something about his directness, the lack of games, made me say yes. We texted sporadically over the next week. Nothing intense, just occasional messages about random things. A funny sign he'd seen. A question about the documentary series. He never double-texted when I didn't respond immediately, never got weird about response times. It was so different from the early days with my ex, where every text had been a calculated move in some unspoken game. 2 weeks after the party, he asked if I wanted to get coffee. I almost said no. The idea of dating, of putting myself out there again, felt exhausting. But my therapist had been encouraging me to try new things, to not let my ex's treatment define how I saw relationships. So I agreed. The coffee date lasted 3 hours. We sat in a corner cafe and just talked. He told me about his work as a graphic designer, showed me some of his projects on his phone, asked about my job in marketing, actually listened to my answers, asked follow-up questions that showed he was paying attention. When I mentioned I'd been engaged recently, he didn't pry. Just said that must have been difficult, and let me decide how much to share. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of that relationship, I told him, surprising myself with the honesty. So I'm not really looking for anything serious right now. That's fair, he said simply. We can just see where things go. No expectations. The lack of pressure was what kept me coming back. We went on more dates, a museum exhibit, a walk through a park, dinner at a place neither of us had tried before. He paid sometimes. I paid sometimes. We split sometimes. He never made it a thing. Never kept score. About a month in, during one of our evening walks, he said something that stuck with me. You apologize a lot, you know, for things that don't need apologies. I felt my defenses rise immediately. I do? Yeah. Like just now, you apologized for wanting to stop and look at something. You apologize when you have opinions. When you want to choose the restaurant. He said it gently, not as criticism. You don't need to do that. Not with me. The observation sat with me uncomfortably. He was right. I'd been apologizing constantly, running everything through a filter of whether it might annoy him, whether I was being too much, too difficult, too opinionated. The habits my ex had trained into me hadn't disappeared just because the relationship had. I'm working on it, I said finally. In therapy? Good. He smiled. For what it's worth, I like when you have opinions, when you tell me what you actually want instead of asking what I prefer. It makes things easier, not harder. Over the next few months, our relationship developed naturally. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. When I had bad days, triggered by something that reminded me of my ex, he gave me space without making me feel guilty about it. When I was ready to talk, he listened without trying to fix everything. He met my friends organically, at gatherings and hangouts, not as some formal test. They liked him, but more importantly, I noticed they relaxed around him. My best friend pulled me aside after one dinner and said, "He's good for you. You smile more." Around the 5-month mark, during a particularly rough therapy session where I'd been processing some of the deeper damage from my previous relationship, I came home to find he'd dropped off groceries at my apartment. Just basics. Milk, bread, coffee, some fruit. Nothing dramatic. Just a simple gesture because he knew I'd been too overwhelmed to shop. He texted, "Left some stuff at your door. No pressure to thank me or see me tonight if you're not up for it. Just didn't want you to worry about breakfast tomorrow." I sat on my apartment floor and cried, but not from sadness. From the realization that this was what thoughtfulness looked like without strings attached, without keeping score, without expecting performance in return. My therapist had been right. Not all relationships were like the one I'd escaped. Some people actually meant it when they said they cared about you. Some people showed up without needing a trophy for it. I was starting to believe I deserved that kind of care. Starting to believe I was worthy of it without having to change every part of myself first. 7 months into dating Owen, I thought I was doing better. I'd stopped apologizing constantly. Started expressing preferences without anxiety. My therapist said I was making real progress in unlearning the defensive patterns my ex had created. Then came the dinner with Owen's work friends. It was supposed to be casual, just a group gathering at someone's apartment, potluck style. I'd brought pasta salad and spent probably too long choosing what to wear, eventually settling on something comfortable but nice. Owen held my hand during the drive over, told me they'd love me, that there was nothing to stress about. The evening went fine at first. His coworkers were friendly, inclusive. They asked about my work, told funny stories about office mishaps. I was actually enjoying myself, feeling like I belonged in this space with Owen, in this version of my life that felt healthier and more authentic. Then someone named Jen made a comment. It was nothing, really. Just an observation about the vintage jacket I was wearing, something I'd found at a thrift store and loved. She said it was interesting with this particular smile. And maybe she meant it as a compliment. Maybe it was totally neutral. But something about her tone, her expression, the way the others glanced at each other, it hit every single insecurity my ex had carefully cultivated. My chest tightened. The room felt too small suddenly, too warm. I excused myself to the bathroom and sat on the closed toilet lid, trying to remember the breathing exercises my therapist had taught me. But my mind was spiraling. They think I don't fit. They're judging me. Owen's going to realize I'm not good enough for his world. When I came out, Owen took one look at my face and suggested we leave early. In the car, I picked a fight about something stupid. The way he'd laughed at one of his coworkers' jokes. How maybe he wished I was more like Jen, more polished and appropriate. I knew I was being irrational even as the words came out, but I couldn't stop. Where is this coming from? Owen asked, genuinely confused and hurt. Everyone loved you tonight. Did they, or were they just being polite? What does that even mean? I couldn't explain it. Couldn't articulate that a single word, interesting, had unlocked every door I'd been trying to keep closed. That I was back in my ex's apartment being told I wasn't good enough, wasn't right, needed to change everything about who I was. Owen drove me home in tense silence. At my door, he tried to talk it through, but I was too raw, too defensive. I told him I needed space. He looked worried but respected it, said to call him when I was ready. I spent the next 3 days in a shame spiral. Therapist was on vacation. My best friend was out of town for work. I felt utterly alone with thoughts that wouldn't stop looping. You're too damaged. You're going to ruin this good thing. Owen deserves someone who doesn't have this much baggage. That's when the message came through. I was scrolling mindlessly through social media, torturing myself by looking at pictures from the dinner party that had been posted, analyzing every face for signs of judgment. Then I saw the notification, a message request from an account I didn't recognize, but when I opened it, I knew immediately who it was. My ex had created a new profile. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, the message read, and I don't blame you, but I've been doing a lot of work on myself. Therapy, actually confronting my issues instead of projecting them onto you. I owe you a real apology, not the half-assed ones I sent before. No expectations, no pressure. I just wanted you to know that I see now how badly I treated you. And I'm sorry. I should have deleted it. Blocked the account. But I was vulnerable and hurting, and some self-destructive part of me wanted to read more. Wanted to hear him say the things I'd needed to hear a year ago. I didn't respond. But I didn't block him either. 2 days later, another message. I saw you're with someone new. He seems nice. You deserve that. Deserve better than how I was. Just wanted you to know I'm genuinely happy you found someone who treats you right. It was manipulation disguised as maturity. Some part of me knew that. But another part, the part that was still hurting from the dinner party, that was still carrying wounds he'd inflicted, that part wanted to believe he'd actually changed. The third message came after I'd had another difficult conversation with Owen, one where I'd been defensive and withdrawn and clearly wasn't giving him what he needed. I know I have no right to say this, but if you ever want to talk, I'm here. No games. Just one person who's been through therapy to another. I stared at those messages for hours. Didn't respond, but didn't delete them either. That night, Owen called. I'm worried about you, he said. You've been distant since the dinner party. Did something happen? Did someone say something that upset you? It's not about the dinner. I lied. I'm just dealing with some stuff. Can I help? We're supposed to be partners in this. I need to figure some things out on my own. The silence on the other end was heavy with hurt and confusion, but he didn't push. Just said he loved me and was there when I was ready. After we hung up, I looked at my ex's messages again. And this time I typed a response. Hi. Just that. 2 letters that would change everything. The response came within minutes, like he'd been waiting. I'm really glad you reached out. I wasn't sure you would. How have you been? We messaged back and forth for an hour. Surface level stuff at first. How we'd been, what we'd been up to. He told me about the therapy he'd been doing. About reading books on emotional intelligence. Named specific titles I recognized from my own therapist's recommendations. It felt different from before. More self-aware. I've been thinking a lot about how I treated you, he wrote. About how my mother's influence shaped my behavior. How I used her as an excuse instead of making my own decisions. You deserved a partner. Not someone who let his family dictate his relationships. The words I'd needed to hear a year ago. Over the next week, the messages became more frequent. He was careful, never pushy, always respectful. He asked about my work, remembered details, sent me articles about topics we'd discussed. Then he started showing up. The first time felt coincidental. I was at my usual coffee shop when he walked in, looked surprised, asked if he could join me, said he'd moved back to the neighborhood. It seemed plausible. We talked for 2 hours. He was different in person, or maybe I wanted him to be. Less critical, more interested in listening. He asked about Owen without malice, said he hoped I was happy. When I mentioned some rough patches, he didn't pounce, just nodded sympathetically. Relationships are hard, he said. Especially when you're still healing. I know I contributed to that for you. I'm sorry. The second coincidence happened at the grocery store. He laughed when he saw me, said something about the universe working mysteriously. We got coffee again. I need to tell you something, he said. I don't want you to think I'm trying to manipulate you. I just need to be honest. My heart rate picked up. Okay. I dated someone after you. Someone my mother approved of, everything I thought I wanted. But she wasn't you. After 6 months, I realized I'd made the biggest mistake of my life letting you go. That's not fair, I said, but my voice was shaky. You can't just say that now. I know it's not fair. You've moved on. I'm not asking you to do anything with this. I just needed you to know that I see it now. What I had and destroyed. And if I could go back and do everything differently, I would. The words wrapped around me like a familiar blanket. Over the next 2 weeks, he was everywhere. The farmer's market, the park where I ran, my favorite bookstore. Each time with explanations, each time resulting in more conversation, more apologies, more declarations of change. I started hiding these meetings from Owen. Not consciously at first, just not mentioning them. Then actively lying when he asked about my day. Creating excuses for why I couldn't see him, why I was distracted. Owen noticed. Are you seeing someone else? He asked after I'd canceled plans for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. No. God, no. I just need space to figure some things out. What things? A month ago we were fine, and now I feel like I'm losing you and I don't understand why. The hurt in his voice should have been enough to snap me out of it. Instead, I got defensive. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe I'm not ready for a serious relationship. Where is this coming from? His voice cracked. Did I do something? This isn't about you. It's about me needing to work through my own stuff. He left that night looking devastated. Instead of calling him to fix it, I messaged my ex. Can we meet tomorrow? I really need to talk. He responded immediately. Of course. Whatever you need, I'm here. The next afternoon, we met at that coffee shop. He'd already ordered my usual drink when I arrived. I don't know what I'm doing, I told him. Everything is so confusing. You're processing trauma, he said gently. What we had, what I put you through, that doesn't just go away because you meet someone new. Maybe part of you needs closure with me before you can really move forward. Is that what this is? Closure? He reached across the table, stopped just short of touching my hand. I don't know what this is, but I know I've never stopped loving you. And I know I'd do anything for another chance to prove I can be the person you deserved all along. I should have left. Should have said this was wrong. That I was with Owen. That no amount of pretty words could undo what he'd done. Instead, I let him take my hand. The meetings became more frequent. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into dinners. We talked for hours about everything we'd never properly discussed before. His childhood, his relationship with his mother, the pressure he'd felt to meet impossible standards. He was vulnerable in ways he'd never been when we were together. It felt like meeting a different person, or maybe seeing the person he could have been all along. My therapist says I was projecting my own insecurities onto you, he said one evening. Making you feel inadequate because I felt inadequate. I'm working on that now. Really working on it. Meanwhile, Owen was calling less, texting less. The distance I'd created was becoming real, permanent. Part of me knew I was destroying something good. The other part couldn't seem to stop. 3 weeks into this gray area of emotional infidelity, my ex suggested we take a longer walk somewhere outside the city. I knew it was a bad idea. I also said yes. We drove to a state park, spent hours on the trails talking. He was attentive in ways I'd forgotten, asking questions and actually listening. No interruptions, no corrections, no subtle criticisms. Just present, engaged interest. I miss this, he said as we sat on a bench overlooking a small lake. Just being with you. No pressure, no expectations. We were never like this, I reminded him. This version of us didn't exist before. I know. That's my fault. I was so caught up in what I thought I was supposed to want that I couldn't see what I actually had. He turned to face me, but I see it now, and I understand what I lost. When he leaned in to kiss me, I should have pulled away. Should have said this was wrong, that I had a boyfriend who'd been nothing but good to me. Instead, I let it happen. We didn't sleep together that day, but we crossed enough lines that the guilt was crushing. On the drive back, I was quiet. He held my hand, told me not to overthink it. That night, Owen called. I almost didn't answer. I can't do this anymore, he said, voice tired. The distance, the not knowing where we stand. I love you, but I need to know if you're still in this relationship or if I need to let you go. The ultimatum was gentle, but firm. But instead of giving him honesty, I gave him half-truths. I'm still in this. I just need a little more time to work through some things. What things? You keep saying that, but you won't tell me what's actually going on. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Talk to me. The guilt made me defensive. Maybe I'm not good at relationships. Maybe I'm too damaged. Don't do that, he said quietly. Don't use your ex as an excuse to push me away. I've been patient, but I need something from you here. I wanted to choose him. Logically, rationally, I knew Owen was right. Stable, kind, healthy. But emotionally, I was caught in the undertow. I need more time, I repeated weakly. After we hung up, my ex texted, You okay? You seemed off earlier. Want to talk? We started meeting more frequently, always with plausible excuses, always in places where we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. The physical line kept getting closer, intense conversations that ended with his hand on my face, walks that ended with kisses that lasted too long. I want you, he said one afternoon after another kiss. But I don't want to rush this. I want to do it right this time. I want you to be sure. The manipulation was so smooth I almost didn't see it. Owen and I had plans that weekend, dinner with his parents. But my ex called that morning, said he needed to see me, that he was having a hard day. I canceled on Owen, made up a work emergency, heard the hurt in his voice when he said okay. Instead, I spent the afternoon with my ex. We got takeout, went back to his apartment, the first time I'd been there since the breakup. We ate on the couch, talked about old times, laughed about inside jokes I'd almost forgotten. I could see us here again, he said, really making it work this time. I'm with someone else, I reminded him, but the words felt hollow. Are you, though? Because you're here with me. You've been here with me for weeks now. In every way except physically. He wasn't wrong. That night we kissed again. And this time when things progressed, I didn't stop them. Didn't think about Owen waiting for me to call. Didn't think about the betrayal. Didn't think about anything except the familiar rush of intensity. Afterward, lying in his bed, the reality of what I'd done crashed over me. I'd cheated. Actually, fully, unambiguously cheated. On someone who'd been nothing but good to me. Don't spiral, my ex said, pulling me closer. This was inevitable. What we have, this connection, it's bigger than timing or circumstances. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think this meant something profound rather than just being a massive mistake. But the guilt was suffocating. I left around midnight, drove home in a daze. Owen had called twice, texted asking if I was okay. I responded that I'd been in meetings all day, that I was exhausted, that I'd call him tomorrow. The lies were piling up so high I couldn't see over them anymore. Over the next 2 weeks, I lived in both worlds. Seeing Owen occasionally, maintaining the pretense of our relationship while it deteriorated, seeing my ex constantly, falling back into patterns that felt familiar even as warning signs started appearing. Small things at first, a comment about my outfit being a bit casual, a suggestion that I might want to work out more, the kind of things I'd trained myself to ignore before. But I was in too deep to see clearly. My ex told me he loved me, that he'd never stopped, that we were meant to be together, and some broken part of me believed it. When my ex pressured me to end things with Owen officially, I hesitated. Because Owen was good. Owen was safe. Owen represented the life I knew I should want. But I was already choosing my ex with every lie, every canceled plan, every moment I spent in his bed instead of building something real with someone who actually cared about me. I just hadn't made it official yet. The moment of full confession came during one of those late-night conversations with my ex, the kind where the darkness made everything feel more intense and honest. We were in his bed, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. Tell me you love me, he said. Not a question, but not quite a demand either. The words caught in my throat, because saying them out loud felt like crossing a final line, making all of this undeniably real. I started, then stopped. You what? He shifted to look at me, his eyes searching mine in the dim light. You've been here with me for weeks now. You chose me over him tonight. Yesterday, the day before. Just say it. Say what we both know is true. I love you. The words came out as a whisper, but they were out there now. Irretrievable. I never stopped loving you. Even when I hated you, even when I thought I'd moved on, I never stopped. He kissed me then, deep and possessive, like he'd won something. And maybe he had. Then you need to end it with him, he said afterward. Really end it. Be with me properly. Give us a real chance this time. I will. I just need to figure out how to There's nothing to figure out. You tell him it's over. Clean break. Clean. Then we can start fresh. Do this right. But every time I thought about actually having that conversation with Owen, my chest tightened. Because ending it meant admitting what I'd done. Meant watching someone I cared about process the betrayal. Meant becoming the villain in someone else's story. I'll do it, I said. Soon. I just need to find the right time. My ex's expression hardened slightly. There's never a right time for these things. You're making excuses. I'm not. I just don't want to hurt him more than necessary. You've already hurt him. Every day you wait, you're hurting him more. And you're disrespecting what we have. He was right. But that didn't make it easier. I was paralyzed between two versions of my life. The safe, healthy one I was destroying, and the intense, toxic one I was running back to. Days passed, then a week. I kept seeing both of them, kept lying to both of them in different ways. Owen knew something was deeply wrong but couldn't prove it. My ex was growing impatient with my inability to make a clean break. You're keeping him as a backup plan, my ex accused during one argument. In case this doesn't work out with us. That's what this is really about. That's not fair, isn't it? You say you love me but you won't leave him. You're with me but you won't commit to me. How is that different from what you're accusing me of? The comparison stung because it had truth in it. I was doing exactly what I'd condemned. Stringing someone along, being dishonest, choosing my own comfort over someone else's clarity. My best friend noticed I'd been distant again, different from the first time, called me out over coffee one afternoon. You're seeing him again, aren't you? She said. Your ex. I can tell. I didn't confirm or deny it, which was answer enough. God, what are you doing? Owen is good to you. He treats you right. And you're going back to the guy who spent months tearing you apart? He's different now. He's been in therapy. Stop. Just stop. She looked genuinely angry, something I rarely saw from her. Do you hear yourself? You're making excuses for him again. And what about Owen? Does he know? My silence answered that too. You're cheating on him. Her voice was flat with disappointment. You're actually cheating on one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet with the man who emotionally abused you. How did this happen? I don't know, I said. And it was true. I didn't know how I'd gotten here, how I'd become this person. It just happened. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every day, you made choices. And now you need to make another one. End it with Owen so he can move on. Or end it with your ex before you destroy yourself again. But you can't keep doing this. It's cruel to Owen and it's destructive to you. She was right. But knowing what I should do and being able to do it felt like entirely different things. That night, my ex called. I can't do this anymore, he said. This limbo. You need to decide. Are you in or out? Are we together or not? I'm in. I told you I'm in. Then prove it. End things with him. Tonight. Right now. Call him and end it. My heart raced. I can't just call him and... Yes, you can. If you love me like you say you do, if you're actually choosing me, then do it. Or I'm going to assume you're not serious about us and I need to move on. The ultimatum was clear. Choose now or lose him again. But I couldn't. The words wouldn't come. The action felt impossible. I need a little more time, I said, hating how weak it sounded. I've given you time. I've been patient. But I'm not going to be the other guy while you figure your shit out. Either you're with me or you're not. We argued in circles until he hung up, frustrated and hurt. And I sat there on my couch, phone in hand, knowing I should call Owen, knowing I should end this limbo, knowing I should make a choice. But I was too scared to lose either of them, too scared to face the consequences of what I'd done, too scared to be alone again. So I did nothing. And the paralysis became its own choice, one that would destroy any chance at redemption I might have had left. Owen had mentioned a work conference. 3 days in another city, leaving Thursday morning. He'd asked if I wanted to do something special before he left. I'd made an excuse about work deadlines. The truth was, I wanted freedom to be with my ex without the constant juggling. Wednesday afternoon, Owen texted, "Conference got pushed back. Not leaving until Friday. Want to grab dinner tonight?" I panicked. My ex and I had plans. "Can't tonight," I texted back. "This work thing is killing me." "Rain check? You've been saying that a lot lately. I feel like I haven't really seen you in weeks." The guilt twisted, but I pushed it down. "I know. I'm sorry. This project will be done soon." "Okay. I love you." I stared at those words before typing. "You too." That evening, I went to my ex's apartment. He'd cooked dinner, set up candles. It was romantic in a way that felt both thrilling and wrong. We ate, drank wine, Talked about the future he kept painting for us. After dinner, we moved to his bedroom. The guilt was always there, hovering, but I'd gotten better at pushing it away. We were in his bed when I heard it. The sound of a key in a lock. My heart stopped. Then I realized it was my apartment door. I'd given Owen a key months ago. Oh God. I grabbed my phone. 3 missed calls. 2 texts. Coming by to surprise you with dinner, and where are you? 20 minutes ago, I called him. It rang once before going to voicemail. He'd rejected it. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He knows, I said. He went to my apartment and I wasn't there and now he knows. I threw on clothes and drove to my apartment. His car was gone. Inside, there was a bag on my counter. Takeout from my favorite restaurant, now cold. And next to it, a small box. A ring. Simple, elegant, exactly my style. I called him again. Nothing. Texted, please let me explain. Nothing. I tried his apartment. Not there. Called his brother, who answered with an edge to his voice. He doesn't want to talk to you. His brother said, please, I just need to explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on him? The anger was controlled but present. He came to surprise you, found you gone. Got worried, called your best friend. She said you'd been acting weird, that she thought you might be seeing your ex again. He put it together. Where is he? Somewhere away from you. Leave him alone. He hung up. I sat on Owen's doorstep for 2 hours. He never came. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't contact me again. We're done. I've blocked you on everything. Please respect that. I tried to call. Already disconnected. My ex called. What happened? Owen found out. He was going to propose and I ruined everything. Come back here. Let me hold you. But nothing felt okay. The next morning, my best friend texted. Owen's brother called. Owen took time off work, went to stay with family out of state. He doesn't want to see you or hear from you. And honestly, I don't blame him. I need space from this too. I can't watch you destroy yourself and hurt good people. Over the next few days, I learned through mutual friends that Owen had told them what happened. Some reached out to express disappointment. Others just quietly unfollowed me. One friend said Owen had looked devastated, like something in him had broken. I'd destroyed something good, someone good, and for what? I was with my ex now. I'd made my choice, burned every bridge to make it. So I had to believe it was worth it. Had to believe he'd really changed. It had to be worth it. Because if it wasn't, I'd destroyed everything for nothing. The first week with my ex as my official boyfriend felt like vindication. He was attentive, loving, everything I'd convinced myself he could be. We spent every evening together, made plans for the future, talked about moving in together eventually. See, he said one night, this is what it's supposed to be like. We're finally doing it right. I wanted so badly to believe him, but around the 2-week mark, small cracks started appearing. A comment about my outfit being a bit much. A suggestion that I might want to be more careful about what I ate. The familiar feeling of walking on eggshells, of monitoring myself, of shrinking. I told myself it was just adjustment, that relationships took work, that I'd sacrificed too much to give up now. 3 weeks in, we had our first real argument. About something small. I'd made plans with my sister without checking with him first. It's just that we're together now, he said. Officially. You should be considering me in your decisions. I am, but I can still see my family. Of course you can. I'm just saying it would be nice to be consulted. The word consulted sat wrong, but I apologized anyway. Old habits. 4 weeks in, he criticized my work performance. Said I was too focused on my career and not enough on us. 5 weeks in, he mentioned that maybe I should dress differently, more feminine, more refined. I was back where I'd started, just with more shame attached because this time I'd chosen it. This time I couldn't claim ignorance. 2 months in, I couldn't pretend things were different. The patterns were all there, just repackaged. The criticism, the control disguised as concern, the slow erosion of my boundaries. But I'd destroyed everything to be here. Owen was gone. My best friend had distanced herself. Other friends had quietly stepped back. I was more isolated than before, with fewer people to turn to and more shame keeping me silent. You've been distant lately, my ex said one evening. Are you having second thoughts? The question felt like a trap. No, I'm just tired. Because you made your choice. You chose me. You don't get to change your mind now. The words had a threatening edge, but I nodded, agreed, apologized. 3 months in, his phone became a source of anxiety. He was protective of it, angling the screen away. taking calls in another room, getting defensive. Why are you so paranoid? He'd say. You're the one who cheated. Maybe you're projecting. The accusation stung because it had truth. Who was I to question anyone's loyalty? 4 months in, I found evidence. His phone was on the bathroom counter while he showered. A message lit up. Can't wait to see you tonight. With a heart emoji. From someone named Vanessa. I knew his passcode. I opened the message thread. Weeks of conversations. Flirtatious messages. Plans to meet. Complaints about me. How I was clingy and damaged. Promises he'd end things with me soon. There were other threads too. Multiple women. All happening while he told me he loved me. When he got out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed with his phone. What are you doing? His tone was sharp. Who's Vanessa? His face went through surprise, calculation, then anger. You went through my phone? After everything you put me through? You have the audacity to invade my privacy? You're cheating on me. Multiple women. So what? The casual cruelty was stunning. You destroyed a good man to be with me. You think I owe you loyalty after what you did? After the person you proved yourself to be? What? You cheated on your boyfriend. You lied for months. You chose me knowing what I was capable of. You don't get to play victim now. He grabbed the phone. Maybe if you'd been less difficult, less needy, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. I gave up everything for you, I said, voice shaking. I didn't ask you to do that. That was your choice. He started getting dressed, casual and unhurried. Honestly, I don't know why I wasted my time. You're damaged goods. I thought I could deal with it, but I can't. My mother was right. You were never good enough. The words were designed to destroy. Get out, I whispered. Gladly. He grabbed his things. For what it's worth, Vanessa is successful, confident, doesn't come with all your baggage. She's what I should have been looking for. He left. I sat in my apartment, the same one where Owen had left an engagement ring. I'd destroyed everything to be here in this exact spot. More alone than I'd ever been. Over the next week, I tried calling. Got sent to voicemail. Saw him post on social media with Vanessa, looking happy. The life he'd promised me, he was living with someone else. My best friend finally responded to a desperate text. I'm sorry you're hurting, but I warned you. You chose this. You need therapy to figure out why you keep choosing people who hurt you. She wasn't wrong. I'd gambled everything on someone I knew was toxic. I'd betrayed someone good. And now I had nothing except the clarity that I'd destroyed my own life. The shame was suffocating. I couldn't tell anyone what happened without admitting how stupid I'd been. Couldn't reach out to Owen without seeming manipulative. Couldn't reconnect with friends without seeming opportunistic. I was completely alone. And I had no one to blame but myself. Weeks passed in a fog. I went to work, came home, existed in the apartment that had witnessed so much destruction. My therapist, who I'd stopped seeing again during the relationship, agreed to take me back as a client. We had a lot of work to do. Why do you think you went back to him? She asked in our first session back. Because I'm stupid. Because I'm broken. Because I deserved what I got. Try again. Without the self-hatred. It took weeks of sessions to start unpacking it. The trauma bond. The intermittent reinforcement. The way abuse becomes addictive because the highs feel so intense after the lows. How I'd confused intensity with love. Chaos with passion. You're not broken, my therapist said. You're someone who experienced psychological abuse and didn't have the tools to recognize it was happening again. That's not stupidity. That's how manipulation works. The words helped a little, but they didn't undo what I'd done. Didn't bring Owen back. Didn't restore my friendships. Didn't erase the fact that I'd become exactly the kind of person I never thought I'd be. 5 months after my ex left, I was still picking up the pieces. Still learning to be alone without it feeling like punishment. Still working through the shame. And then I saw the post. Owen, at a nice restaurant, clearly on a date, looking happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. The woman next to him was smiling at him with uncomplicated affection. And I knew. That could have been me. Should have been me. I'd had that, and I'd destroyed it. A year later, I was pregnant with my ex's child. The nausea had persisted for 2 weeks before I took the test. Positive. The timing was exact. Those final weeks before I discovered his cheating. I'd be connected to him forever. His response to my text. Is it even mine? You're the only person I've been with. I need a paternity test. We met at a coffee shop. He looked unburdened. I looked destroyed. I'm with Vanessa now. Seriously. This complicates things. He paused. If it is mine, we'll figure out custody. but I'm not getting back together with you. The paternity test confirmed it. His response, okay, let me know when it's born. No support, just cold acknowledgement. My pregnancy was lonely. My ex wanted nothing to do with it. Vanessa was now his fiancée. They were building the life he'd promised me. My best friend reached out when she heard, I'm here if you need me, but I'm still hurt. I know. I'm scared. You'll be a good mom. Just keep him at a distance. But he had rights. I'd co-parent with someone who'd made me feel worthless. At 5 months, I saw Owen's engagement announcement. The woman from the restaurant. Comments full of people happy he'd found someone good. I cried, because I could see the life I'd thrown away. The baby came at 39 weeks. A girl. Perfect and healthy. My sister was there. My ex was on vacation with Vanessa. When I held my daughter, I felt love more intense than anything I'd experienced. And terror, because I knew what I'd brought her into. My ex met his daughter at 4 days old, held her awkwardly, took a photo, left after 20 minutes. I'll send child support. We'll figure out custody later. That became our reality. Monthly deposits, occasional visits where he showed up with Vanessa like fulfilling an obligation. My daughter would grow up knowing her father existed but didn't want her. A year later, I saw Owen's wedding photos. He looked radiant. They were building something real while I navigated single motherhood. My therapist helped me through the shame. You made terrible mistakes, but you're defined by what you do now. What I did now was raise my daughter. Work, therapy, slowly rebuild family relationships and a tentative friendship with my best friend. But the consequence was permanent. My daughter would grow up with a father who called her mother damaged, who saw his child as a complication. I was trapped in the aftermath of my destruction, not in abuse but forever connected to him through my daughter. Every custody exchange a reminder. I'd look at Owen's family online. They had a baby now, happy and healthy and wanted. That could have been my life. My daughter was enough, though. She was everything. Maybe my redemption would be raising her to know her worth, to recognize manipulation, to choose better. But on hard nights, when my ex sent dismissive texts, when I saw Owen's happy family, when the weight felt crushing, I knew the truth. I destroyed everything for nothing, and I'd be living with that choice forever. Where they are now. Owen married and started a family with someone who valued him. He's happy, healed from what I did. He never unblocked me, never looked back. He found the life he deserved. My ex married Vanessa 2 years after our daughter was born. They have their own child now. He's a present father to that child in ways he never was to mine. His mother never acknowledges my daughter as her grandchild. My best friend and I rebuilt a cautious friendship. She's there for important things, but the closeness is gone. I destroyed that trust, and it can never fully return. My sister is my rock, showing up for every milestone my ex misses. She never says I told you so, though she has every right. My daughter is 3 now. Bright, beautiful, unaware of the complicated circumstances of her existence. But she's starting to notice her father's absence, starting to ask questions I don't know how to answer. Me? I'm surviving, working, healing, trying to be the mother my daughter deserves. Living with the permanent consequence of choosing intensity over stability, manipulation over genuine love. I destroyed a good man's trust. I ruined my chance at happiness. I brought a child into a broken situation she never asked for. That's my story. That's what happens when you go back to someone who hurt you, when you betray someone good, when you confuse trauma bonding for love. I can't undo it. I can only live with it. Forever. The apartment where Owen left the engagement ring still has a mark on the counter where I dropped the box that night. My daughter plays near that spot now, oblivious to the ghost of a life that could have been. Sometimes she asks why other kids have daddies who come to school events. I tell her daddy is busy, that he loves her in his way. The lie tastes bitter. My ex sends photos of his new family on holidays. His daughter, my daughter's half-sister, dressed in matching outfits with Vanessa. My ex's arm around them both, looking like the perfect family. My daughter isn't in those photos. She's the secret, the complication, the reminder of his past mistakes. Owen's wife is pregnant with their second child, I see from social media. He's posting about nursery preparation, about being excited to be a dad again, the kind of posts he never got to make about being a dad for the first time. Because I took that from him. I took that from both of us. This is my life now. Not the dramatic destruction I expected, but the quiet, persistent ache of permanent consequences. Of seeing the life I destroyed every time I look at Owen's happiness. Of seeing the life I settled for every time my ex picks up our daughter and hands her back like a borrowed item. I made my choices, and now I live with them, every single day, forever.